All right, the Obamacare blame game. Affordable Care Act co-architect Jonathan Gruber pointing the finger at President Trump for health care's rising costs. Take a listen.
Look, and whose fault is this? Before President Trump was elected, there were no counties in America that did not have an insurer. Then you have a president who comes in, undercuts open enrollment, doesn't honor the obligations this law makes to insurers.
All right.
And as a result, premiums are going up and insurers are exiting.
Right. Here now is Joe Borelli, former Trump campaign co-chair for New York State, Jessica Tarlov, Bustle senior director of research and a Fox News contributor. Joe, I mean, we did so many stories in the run-up to the election in that time period. Arizona price increase 116%, Tennessee 63%, Oakland. I mean, we can put up the map. I can go on and on. Major insurance carriers, 3 of the 5 of them, went on their conference calls to shareholders before the election and said they were exiting Obamacare because they were losing money. How do you blame that on Donald Trump? He hadn't even been elected yet.
Look, I don't know. I don't know if Mr. Gruber was awake in 2016, but the collapse of Obamacare was actually a thing. On Election Day itself, 17 of 23 Obamacare co-op exchanges had already gone bankrupt or out of business. This was a problem going into the election. And, you know, look, Donald Trump isn't to blame for Obamacare's failure, but Obamacare's failure is partially to blame for the election of Donald Trump. That's a tough pill to swallow for some of the Democrats, and you see that they're reacting, in this case, like a petulant child who doesn't want to take responsibility for that which he created.
Jessica, I mean, we saw that in exit polls. We saw that in interviews ahead of the election, that one of the reasons why people wanted a change and were looking to Donald Trump is because they were so worried about the skyrocketing cost of their health care and the huge deductibles.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, as Joe pointed out, it was a critical issue that helped propel Donald Trump to the presidency. I would say, of course, that the overall cost of health care is down this last decade from the decade before that. But, I mean, I understand completely. What I would say is actually that the blame should be placed squarely on the shoulders of both Republicans and Democrats who haven't worked together to fix the issues with Obamacare, to talk about real solutions, to repair this plan. And that's what I think actually the Senate is going to come out of the Senate at this point. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of Democrat support for it. Very tied to supporting the legacy of President Obama, but I think making some modifications and working together on them could help out a lot of Americans who voted for both parties.
Yeah, Joe, I don't know who in the universe's health care is cheaper than it was 10 years ago. I'd like to meet that person, but do you think that both sides can come together?
Well, I hope.
I mean, whether you call it repeal and replace or fix, whatever you call it, do you think at this point anybody can come together and solve the problem that's hurting all Americans?
Look, I hope so. And if 2020 rolls around, or when it does, Donald Trump will have to answer for the Republicans' health plan that he put forward. And you're right. This is an issue that both the Senate Republicans, Senate Democrats need to work on together. It's a lot tighter of a vote in the Senate than it was in the House. So we have no choice but to be bipartisan.
I have to be fair. Jessica, last word real quick.
No, I'm just, bipartisan hopeful on this one. Donald Trump will have a lot to answer for, including what came out of the House and what eventually comes out of the Senate.
You're right.
And, he was the guy who came out there and said at first, basically, we're going to have single payer, right? No one's going to be left on the street. We're going to make sure everyone's taken care of. So I'd love for him to keep that promise.
There you go, guys. Thank you.